The sun hadn't fully risen when Lena pulled her patrol SUV into our driveway. Exhausted, eyes shadowed with fatigue, she shifted into park and leaned her head against the seat. The squad radio crackled faintly, but she turned the volume down, craving 5 minutes of silence. After a 16-hour shift, wrangling with cartel intel and coordinating a multi-state task force, my wife, Sheriff Lena Matthews, was finally home. But peace doesn't last long in Willow Creek Ranch Estates. Lena's front tire edged slightly over the invisible line dividing our property from the HOA's precious common area, a 6-foot concrete shoulder they guarded like buried treasure. We'd owned the home for a year, and in that time, no one had abused that technicality more than Karen McCaffrey, HOA president, neighborhood vigilante, and part-time dictator in a pink bathrobe. The screen door creaked as I stepped onto the porch, coffee in hand. I saw Lena resting in her seat, unaware of the high-pitched voice charging down the sidewalk. "Excuse me." Karen's screech cut through the still air like a chainsaw. "You cannot park there." Lena opened one eye. "Morning to you too." Karen stomped across the grass, wielding her phone like a badge of righteousness. "That vehicle is violating Section 8.3b of the HOA parking code. No vehicle may encroach upon community on pavement. It's right here in the bylaws." Lena sat up, blinking away exhaustion. "Ma'am, I'm off duty. I just finished a double shift. I'm parking for 10 minutes on my own property." Karen's expression twisted, equal parts triumphant and condescending. "That's not just your property. Your driveway extends 2 feet onto HOA-maintained curb. I've warned you people before. I'm placing you on official citation." "You people," I tensed. Lena didn't flinch. She stepped out, still in uniform, badge polished, boots scuffed from field work. "Karen," she said calmly, "you're escalating something that doesn't need escalation. I'm going inside to shower. Then I'll move the vehicle." Karen didn't back down. "You're impersonating law enforcement." Lena paused mid-step. "What did you say?" "You're using a fake badge to intimidate residents. Real officers don't act like this. You think just because you're wearing a costume you can break rules. I'm calling the sheriff's department." From my perch on the porch, I choked on my coffee. Lena turned slowly, voice suddenly ice. "You want to call the sheriff's department?" Karen's smug grin widened. Already on the phone, Lena folded her arms. "Tell them Sheriff Lena Matthews is here. I'm sure they'll rush right over." But Karen was already barking into the phone, twisting the truth in real time. "Yes, there's a strange woman in uniform trespassing on HOA property. I believe she's impersonating a police officer. No, she's being aggressive and confrontational." Lena didn't move. Her hand hovered near her belt, not for a weapon, but for her ID. I could see the calculation in her eyes. "Let Karen finish digging. Send officers immediately," Karen concluded triumphantly, ending the call. "We'll see what they have to say." I walked down the steps to stand beside Lena. Did she just try to arrest the sheriff in her own driveway? Lena gave a dry laugh. "She's either clueless or suicidal." From across the street, blinds shifted, curtains twitched. The neighborhood was watching again. Karen turned on her heel, face flushed with self-satisfaction. "You've got 10 minutes before backup arrives." Lena looked over at me. "I guess we're having company." The patrol SUV sat peacefully in our driveway, lights off, engines still warm, a symbol of law, discipline, and ironically restraint. But the woman it belonged to, she was about to make it clear that this time, the law wasn't just parked, it was home. 15 minutes later, the distant whine of a cruiser's siren rose over the quiet hum of the morning. Lena didn't flinch. She sat on our porch bench, freshly showered, sipping her coffee as though she were waiting for brunch, not backup. I watched from the steps, arms crossed, heart pounding more with anticipation than fear. The only person trembling was Karen, though she mistook it for anticipation. The patrol car rolled into the cul-de-sac like a scene from a made-for-TV cop drama. 2 deputies stepped out, Deputy Roy Carter and Deputy Maria Sanchez. Both were competent, level-headed, and had served under Lena for over 5 years. Roy was one of her academy recruits. Maria once referred to Lena as her field general. Karen naturally stepped in front of them like a traffic cone with an ego. "Officers, thank goodness you're here," she began, clutching her phone like it was a holy relic. "That woman," she pointed to Lena, "has been impersonating law enforcement and is trespassing on HOA-maintained land. I demand you remove her vehicle and detain her for questioning." Roy blinked. "You want us to detain the sheriff?" Karen scoffed. "She told you that. She's lying. I know every public servant in this county and she's not it. Probably bought that badge online." Lena rose, slow and steady. She didn't raise her voice or flash credentials. She simply stood, and the quiet command in her presence did all the talking. "Roy, Maria." Both deputies straightened instantly. "Matthews," Maria said, almost as if she was standing at parade rest. "We received a report of impersonation and vehicle violations." Lena nodded. "And now that you're here, are you satisfied those claims were unfounded?" Roy looked between Lena and Karen, visibly holding back a smirk. "Yes, ma'am. Fully satisfied." Karen's jaw dropped. No, you can't be serious. She's." Her voice cracked like ice underfoot. "She's the sheriff." Lena pulled out her ID wallet and handed it to Karen with the sort of calm you only learn from years of dealing with armed standoffs and bureaucratic lunatics. Issued by the governor's office, sworn in 2 years ago. You might have missed the ceremony. Was in every local paper. Karen staggered back, visibly unraveling. Her entire face turned the color of undercooked shrimp. But you're not allowed to park on HOA property, even if you're the sheriff. Maria raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, interfering with law enforcement during official operations or while returning from one can constitute obstruction. And just for clarity, marked patrol units are permitted under county ordinance to park wherever necessary, including public or shared access spaces. Roy added, in suggesting a uniformed officer is impersonating law enforcement. That's a serious false accusation. That kind of report clogs dispatch lines and diverts resources. Karen's voice hitched. I didn't know. I thought. Lena stepped closer, her tone sharper now. You thought you could push someone around, like always. You thought your clipboard and rules were stronger than the law. But you didn't just cross a line this time, Karen. You stepped into a world you don't understand. Karen flinched as if the words hit her physically. She took a clumsy step back, nearly tripping over her own sandals. The neighborhood eyes were out in full force now, dozens of blinds peeled open, phones recording from behind windows. The queen of the HOA had just been publicly dethroned. I could press charges, Lena added. False report, harassment, even defamation. But I won't. Karen's expression lit up with hope. Too early yet, Lena said, each syllable a verdict. Karen turned and scurried toward her front porch, knocking over a planter as she slammed her door behind her. The cul-de-sac was silent again. Maria turned to Lena with a smile. You handled that with more restraint than I would have, Sheriff. I'm used to dealing with criminals, Lena replied. She's just entitled. Roy chuckled. She'd probably doubled the HOA fees just to feel in control again. Lena glanced toward Karen's house. But as the deputies drove off, I stepped beside Lena and handed her the last sip of my coffee. Think she'd back down. Lena looked over at our patrol car, still parked right where it had been all morning. Not a chance. That woman doesn't know how to lose. She was right. Because Karen wasn't just humiliated, she was ignited, and the next chapter in her war against us was already brewing. But this time, Lena was ready. Karen didn't speak to us for 2 days, not a word, not a glance, not even one of her passive-aggressive glares, but the silence didn't mean surrender. On the third morning, a bright orange citation envelope was duct-taped to our mailbox. It fluttered in the breeze like a warning flag. Lena tore it open and skimmed the letter. Her eyes narrowed as she read aloud. Greater than official HOA notice, vehicle improperly parked in shared use area, failure to comply with aesthetic conformity standards, and use of an unauthorized badge or uniform to intimidate a board member. Fines totaling $1,175 due within 10 days. She lowered the paper and exhaled through her nose. She's tripling down. I looked at the last line, printed in bold. Failure to pay may result in legal action and possible lien against property. Lena folded the notice calmly and walked into the house. When she returned, she wasn't holding coffee, she was holding a clipboard of her own. Thick, heavy, and organized by color-coded tabs. If Karen wants to fight with paperwork, she said, then we fight with truth. That week, Lena spent every spare moment combing through Willow Creek Ranch Estates HOA by lost property maps, city zoning permits, and electrical utility records. She wasn't just a sheriff, she was a master of logistics, the kind of woman who memorized floor plans before entering buildings and could recite statutes backwards. What she found, stunning. Karen's private patio was built without permits and extended 4 feet into protected floodplain buffer zones. Her garden shed had been wired into a municipal light post using an illegal extension through the storm drain. She'd hosted multiple board meetings without official records, budget disclosures, or proper voting procedures. But the cherry on top, Karen's backyard fence, her pride and joy, crossed a utility easement and had been flagged for removal. 5 years earlier, she simply ignored it and no one enforced it. Looks like Karen's little kingdom is built on swampy ground, Lena said, flipping another page. Instead of storming into her yard with accusations, Lena drafted a formal report. She submitted it not to Karen but to the city zoning commission, the local electrical authority, and the Department of Residential Oversight. She attached photos, dates, diagrams. A week passed. Then came the knock on Karen's door. City inspectors, 2 of them, clipboard in hand, neon vests unmistakable. I watched from across the street as they gestured at her fence, measured her patio, and pointed at the overhead wires running from the shed. Karen's arms flailed as she argued. She kept holding up her clipboard, as though it were some holy document that could banish officials like vampires. But city laws don't bow to HOA bylaws. The next day, 3 violation notices were taped to Karen's door, each a different color, each more official than anything she'd ever printed. She ripped them down like they were venomous that evening. She called an emergency HOA meeting. Every resident in the neighborhood received a flyer accusing Lena of weaponizing her government role to sabotage the community. Karen ranted on about corruption, conspiracy, and claimed Lena had orchestrated a deep state revenge scheme. We attended the meeting. Lena wore jeans and a leather jacket, no badge, no bravado. Karen pounded the podium. This woman represents a danger to our neighborhood order. She's unhinged, power-mad, and must be removed from this HOA. One by one, neighbors began to murmur, but then Lena stood, voice even and controlled. I filed no charges. I simply reported factual zoning violations. The agencies that acted did so independently. If you believe I abused power, feel free to file a complaint with the county ethics board. But I'm warning you, make sure you bring proof, not paranoia. The room went quiet. Then Mr. Patel from down the street raised a hand. Karen did. You, or did you not install that illegal fence? Karen flushed. It's irrelevant. Mrs. Alvarez followed. And the electricity theft. That's not just HOA business. That's criminal. Karen's face collapsed into fury. She's turned you all against me. No, Lena replied coolly. You did that all by yourself. The meeting ended in chaos, Karen storming out red-faced, trailing her clipboard behind her like a broken sword. But the real turning point came later that night, when 3 board members resigned citing Karen's abuse of power and unsanctioned legal threats. Lena sat on our porch afterward, watching fireflies dance across the yard. She didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. She's not done, she said, eyes fixed on Karen's darkened windows. But she's unraveling, and people are finally starting to see who she really is. The neighborhood had shifted. What was once Karen's stage had become her courtroom, and the verdict was forming in whispers behind every shuttered window and backyard fence. A week after the disastrous HOA meeting, Lena received a formal envelope in our mailbox. Inside, a petition signed by over 30 residents, requesting her to oversee the reformation of the HOA board. I watched her thumb through the signatures. Expression unreadable. They don't want a sheriff, she murmured. They want someone to keep the peace for real this time. You're the only one they trust now, I said. Lena didn't want power. She never did. But after everything, Karen had pulled false reports, weaponized citations, characters smears. Someone needed to rebuild what had been broken, and Lena knew how to do that without flexing ego. She didn't just accept the request. She held a community meeting in our front yard. No podiums, no rules, just neighbors, lawn chairs, and truth. Karen didn't show, but her presence lingered in the air like a storm that hadn't yet rained. Lena spoke plainly. I'm not here to run your lives. I'm here to help reset what the HOA should have. Benign organization that supports, not controls, that protects, not punishes. Applause broke out. Real applause. Not the tight, forced kind that usually followed Karen's speeches that night. Something rare happened in Willow Creek Ranch Estates. People started talking like neighbors again. Real conversations. Kids played without parents peeking nervously over fences. The air felt lighter. But of course, Karen had one last play. 3 days later, we woke to find our mailbox shattered and our trash cans overturned. Spray painted across our garage door were 4 sloppy words in red. Corrupt cop, go HOA. Lena stood before it silently, not angry, just still. She called no deputies, filed no report. She just walked back inside, changed into a uniform, and returned, with a pressure washer and a bucket of paint. As she cleaned, neighbors began to gather. Mr. Patel brought a brush. The Harris twins, 10 years old and all elbows, started scrubbing with rags. One by one, people pitched in, not out of obligation, but solidarity. By noon, the door was spotless, repainted whole, and Karen, she was served that afternoon. 2 separate agencies had launched investigations, one into illegal electrical wiring from the city, the other from the county clerk's office concerning financial discrepancies in HOA dues under her leadership. Lena had nothing to do with either. The wheels had turned on their own. Powered by the evidence she'd already exposed, that Karen moved out quietly one night before charges could escalate. No farewell notes, no fiery speeches, just a for sale sign posted on her manicured lawn. Like a tombstone, the clipboard was never seen again. In her absence, Lena didn't gloat. She drafted new bylaws, transparent, fair, and built on consensus. Elections were held. Lena declined nomination for HOA president but agreed to stay on as an advisor. Balance returned. The patrol SUV, still parked in our driveway, but now, every morning, it bore a bright blue placard on the dash reading, authorized by HOA resolution to 2B, sheriff parking permitted, a gift from the board. And next to the mailbox, a new one, sturdy and steel, stood a small engraved plaque that read, "Here lives Sheriff Lena Matthews, protector of the peace, defender of the neighborhood." One afternoon, I found her sitting under the oak tree, coffee in hand, watching kids ride bikes down the street without fear. Worth it? I asked. She smiled faintly. Karen came for my badge, my name, and my peace. She got none of it. The sun dipped behind the rooftops, and the neighborhood lights flicked on. No shouting, no clipboards, just the quiet hum of a place healing. Turned out, all Willow Creek Ranch Estates ever needed was a sheriff who parked exactly where she belonged.